Is my 1939 9N Ford tractor. I'm going to explain how to set up a Dearborn plow. There's been a lot of text descriptions, and I actually want to do a visual so you can get a better idea of how this all works out as far as making adjustments. The first thing you have to do is to get it up on blocks. What you do is you take the left wheel and kind of make a staggered ramp with some 1x or 2x4s, wide ones. Come up, and it's a little over 6 inches. It's like 6.5 inches, but bring it up to at least 6 inches, no more than 7 inches on the left tire. And what that does is that puts your tractor in the position that it's in when it's actually doing the furrow. Now when you have the tractor up on the left side, 6 inches, 6 to 7 inches, what you want to do is adjust the two control bars, basically the center control bar that runs the draft control, and also the left side control arm. Adjust those two so that what you have is that both plows are bottoming out. And if you look out, I'll put this down on the concrete so you can see. Basically, you want both plows to be bottoming out flat on a concrete surface. And obviously, when you're making this adjustment, make sure you're on a flat slab so that everything will work out. Well, once you have that adjustment made and you've got the left side of the left side of the tractor up 6 inches off the left side wheel, and now you're in the furrow virtually, so you've got it jacked up at the blocks. This thing should be sitting flat down in the furrow. Now, if you notice, if you could just see it, and I can see it here, it's got a slight tip to the right side of the tractor. It's supposed to have that, so it'll pull down into the furrow and it won't want to jump out. And down at this edge on the outside of Dearborn, there is a what they call a landslide on the outside left share, and what you do is you take a string and run it along the share and run it up through the center of the tractor up to the front tires. And this is what I've got set up in the front to measure the stagger from left to right as to how far off the center line is to the center of the front axle. As you can see here, it's drifting to the right about 6 inches, and that's pretty much what it's supposed to be. Now, since this is a 9N, it doesn't have position control, it just has draft control. So what you have is the draft piston in the back, which actually goes in when there's a heavy load on the plow to push up, drive in the draft control against that heavy spring, and that spring is rated for the horsepower, drawbar horsepower maximum. So basically, if you're over that, it starts to pull the plow up out of the ground. What that does is it pushes that piston forward and makes an adjustment in the setting of your normal control, which is up here. That's an important point. On the 9N, since you don't have position control, it's different than the 8N. On the 9N, what you have to do is to set this control mechanism so that this stop block is placed so that the plow control slightly wants to drift closed. Wants to drift down. So you've got a positive force pushing down, drifting down slowly. It's kind of hard to set. You can just kind of drive around and set this until you see the plow slowly wanting to set low. And this is a set point. And what this control back here does is modify that set point. This is wanting to slowly push the plow into the ground, and then once you get to a point where there's too much earth being moved, or the depth's too high, it'll push this cylinder in and modify this adjustment slightly. It actually goes in and pushes the linkage. It pushes this linkage back without moving this lever. It's a special 3-point linkage, and it will actually pull this lever back without moving it back, and what that does is pull the plow up. So it's basically a control loop. So the draft control is basically a closed loop system. You set a point on here where you're wanting to basically push the plow in the ground just slightly. If it goes too deep, this draft control spring in the back, along with the draft control lever, pushes in and makes an adjustment to pull it back up so it's in balance. On the 9N, you don't have to do this. Basically, on the 9N, you just push, I think, the lever all the way down, and the way the adjustment inside makes it, the proportional control it has is over the 9N. You don't need to do this setting with the stop and making the adjustment that way. A couple other things to note is, somebody welded points on this. I don't know why. These are $9 points. You can get them anywhere. I don't know why somebody thought they were going to save $4 and weld something on here. But see how it's pitched down? That's going to be a problem. And then on the other one is worn quite a bit, but I think it'll be okay for this. One thing that I do when I get done plowing every year is I put graphite paint on both of the shares, and as you can see, and also the cut wheels. And as you can see, it lasted basically a whole year, and most of the graphite paint is still intact. And you don't, basically when you first start plowing it, it shines right up immediately, so you get that shearing effect off the share and nice roll of the earth. Just reference, this is a Dearborn Model 10, serial number is 909. You can read it off this. One question a lot of people have is, how do I know what the plow depth is going to be? Well, it has to, once again, go back to the draft control. That's the draft control piston, and where you set this out to be level plane. When you level these out with that left wheel 6 inches or 7 inches in the air, I actually have it 7 inches. When you level that out and you come across, that's where the bottom of the furrow is going to be. This is where the tractor is going to be sitting when you make your furrow. Okay, so that means that it's not what you think. Basically, this furrow, when it pulls in, is going to pull to the right a little bit. This furrow on the left is probably going to be like 6.5 inches. This one over here on the right is probably going to be like 5 inches, the depth. If you want to go deeper, you actually have to modify this and change it. The reason why is that this is all floating, and it floats, and its goal is to make these furrows flat on the bottom with that plow flat in the bottom of the furrow. When it gets to that point, there won't be any pressure on that feedback linkage on the draft bar. So it'll be happy, and it'll sit right here where you set it. If you want it someplace different, you gotta move it to someplace different. So there's no adjustment for that. I know it sounds kind of weird. You can force it to, but now you're outside the draft control, and you're actually fighting it. You can go 7-8 inches with the way I got it set up here. It'll always want to float back up. You always have to drive it down. Furrow won't be flat on the bottom. But you see, that's what this whole draft control gives you, is once you drop it in, it automatically pulls down to the depth that makes those shares and the landslide flat on the bottom with the level you've got set right here. So that's how it works, and if you want it different, you have to set it lower. Both furrows aren't the same depth. If I had to guess, can't tell for sure, I'd say that one furrow is going to be like 1.5 inches deeper than the other one. The left's going to be like 1.5 inches deeper than the other one. So it probably averages out to be like 5 inches, 4 inches, something like that. So anyway, just wanted to pass these points on to you. I've read this description several times as to how to set an 8N, and a couple descriptions on how to set up a 9N for the plow that I'm using. And I just wanted to go ahead and do a video so you could actually see the setup live.